This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. And welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard, and it's a real privilege to be with you today. Another outstanding episode lined up for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about what we all love and admire dearly in this great country of ours, and that is freedom. But not just freedom, financial freedom. Today, we're talking about how you can make smarter, better decisions that can allow you to be more free to do the things you want to do, live the ideal life that you want to live, right? Isn't that what life is all about? Living an ideal life, doing all the things you want to do, when you want to do them, how you want to do them, and making the best out of your life and the choices there within. So today we're going to be learning from somebody that's an expert. Today we have the privilege of having Dr. Eric Francom on our show today. A little bit about Dr. Francom. He started out as a dentist. Yes, I know that sounds weird. How in the heck does a dentist become an expert in all things financial? Well, we're going to find out. But he started out as a dentist, and he owned 4 different dental practices. Then he turned into real estate mogul and then into private equity and venture capitalism. And now spends his time following his passion and helping other people succeed and achieve financial freedom so they can live the life they want to live. He has been featured on a number of different TV stations and radio stations like NBC, CBS, and has done some things for entrepreneur.com. It's my privilege to introduce Mr. Eric Francom. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Great to be here. Thank you, Jason.
Absolutely. Amazing background, amazing things that you're doing out there. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about you and how you may have gotten started into this. Talk to us about your journey from dental school to dentist to where you are today.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to. So I went into dental school thinking, I was deciding between business and going into dentistry and medicine. And I kind of found the best of both worlds there in dentistry and got to go to dental school and, made it through. And, I just had gone to school my whole life and I was stuck with a bunch of debt. I'd done some business, ventures and things. I'd had some real estate through school and that, but on the other side of it, I just wanted to keep growing. And I had one practice that I bought and I thought if one practice is good, then 4 would be even better. So I started 3 others from scratch along the way. And, I just enjoy growth and I feel like we're meant to grow and build things. And along the way, I had to answer the question, why? And it was interesting. I was at a conference for a bunch of dentists called Sorona World, and Tony Robbins was there. And he was just speaking about how he works but doesn't have to. And the kind of work that you put in when you don't have to work is at a next level. And I thought, man, that's something that I'd love to have. And it really changed my paradigm shift. And I said, okay, I'm going to really go after that purpose of working because I want to, because I get to, and not because I have to. And so, it ended up getting to the point where I was going to sell one of my practices off. They made me an offer on the 4 of them from private equity, and I pivoted. So now I, was already to the point where I had some private clients and that I was teaching how to invest the way that I was, to where your passive income can increase and overtake your active income. And so now I get to do that full time. I get to help others and teach them how to find passive income and to live their dream life because they get to and not because they have to.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. What I find in the medical field, whether you're doctors, dentists, psychologists, brain surgeons, a lot of folks in the medical community are a certain kind of personality. They're very caring and thoughtful and compassionate, and their passion in life is to help people look better, feel better, and just live a better physical quality life. And I can kind of see those traits in you and how they're transcending. So how how did that how did this kind of ignite a passion in you? Tony Robbins does motivate a lot of people. He's an inspirational guy, but how did this get ignited? What fueled this? What ignited all of this? And to where you're like, I'm just dedicating my life to helping people be financially stable and free, and whatever that means.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, most inventions come out of necessity. And for me, I was not balanced at all. I was so focused on debts and a lifetime's worth of student loans, or dental offices and buildings, and the debt that I had, I didn't have a healthy relationship with it. And so I was kind of grinding through, trying to accelerate how long it took me to pay that debt down. And I thought, like, I'm going to work harder. There's no sense for me taking a weekend off when I have all of this debt hanging over my head. And so through that, I got unbalanced, and I didn't have a free lifestyle. My relationships were suffering. My wife and I were having a hard time. We weren't getting along like we should, because of just, there was stress, and she was helping me at the office. We were having a baby, and it just, that just always compounds everything. And I just wanted to be more balanced. I wanted to not just look back at the end of my career and think, hey, I'm glad I worked all of those days and weekends and everything like that. But I'm glad that I got to spend time watching the Thanksgiving program at school, or taking my kids to Disneyland, or whatever it may be. And so, just out of necessity, I was unhealthy being unbalanced like that. And I was able to get myself to where I was very healthy, and get to the point where I'm enjoying the journey rather than just the finish line. And I realized there is no finish line, and there is no retirement. I don't ever want to be retired. I just want to be growing and helping people. And teaching is one of those ways that we can do that. And also setting up my own, finances where they do a lot of good for people long after I'm gone, and they can continue to grow and compound for others, and be set up to do good things for generations.
Yeah. When I talk to people, Eric, there's always one thing, one trigger point that just snaps, and that's the moment they make a decision to do something different. I remember that day specifically when I decided to open up my coaching business. I decided to shift and help people, and do what I'm doing now with the podcast and business and executive coaching. And there was one specific day where it just snapped. And I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it. I woke up the next day, my feet hit the floor, and I never looked back. It was all in, 100%, no plan B, all in, making it happen. Tell us a little bit about what that was for you. What was the one thing that may have happened to where it just snapped in your head and you're like, that's it. I'm doing this.
Yeah. Well, we were having our third child, through this journey, and the first two, I love my girls, but I didn't spend nearly as much time with them as I wanted to. I hated the days that I went to school after they were, before they woke up in the morning, and I went to work before they were awake in the morning, and I got home after they were asleep, and I just missed the whole day of their life. And then we were having our third child, and this was kind of right when COVID hit, and I was looking at selling one office already anyways. And I just thought about being able to spend more time with my now two little ones, as well as a new one coming along the way. And I wish I could say there was just that one specific spearhead moment that changed it all. But I do remember when I had the opportunity to sell the practices and to be able to help to consult people. I took that. I was grateful for the transition to be able to, help more people with my mind rather than only with my hands. And I feel like there's a limit. You could hit a ceiling with what you can do with your hands. And so, That was, I think, a big part of it. COVID came and that really did change things. It was more existential as far as what is this going to bring? How are things going to change? My 10-year plan, how is that going to affect things? And I wanted more of a, like a foolproof, like a all weather type, a plan that had more revenue coming from different sources. And so I would say that really did play a bigger part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really powerful story, Eric. Thank you for sharing that. And kind of what I take away from that is, you had gone to school to be, kind of in a technical space. Working on people's teeth is a very, specialized area. You gotta learn very specific things, the tools, the equipment, and what to do in different situations depending on people's situation. And what I'm hearing you say is, I was good at that. And you open up 4 practices, but there was more to you. There was more to you wanted to be. You wanted to kind of round yourself out, be more strategic about things in life, right? When people feel like they're siloed into one thing and that's what they do all day, every day, people like you that are a little more entrepreneurial, a little more strategic in their thinking, um, sometimes get unhappy in that space and they don't know where to go. And it seems like that was the case for you. And then you found some of these other things through some of your journey. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was able to continue to grow and to increase my journey just by, just really applying myself by being myself. I felt like as a dentist, I didn't have my full energy. I felt like I was held back. I wanted people to feel comfortable, and I felt like maybe I was a little bit more dry than my true self was because I felt like I needed to be reserved. And It's funny. I talk to people now, and probably once or twice a week, I hear somebody say, "Man, I just love your energy," and I never heard that as a dentist. Not even once.
Yeah.
So I was probably fighting against the river a little bit because, I was not going with the tide, but maybe against it in some things. But I'm still able to help people with dentistry, and I can do that, on mission trips. I am probably going to get another office or group of offices at a certain point, but I'm just not going to do that in an unbalanced way where I'm spending all of my time doing that because you're really helping people. I can do that in different ways. I can help them clinically. I can help them to be at ease and reduce their fears. And I can also help people that have some of their greatest fears. And that is outliving your money. That's been shown to be a greater fear than dying. So, having people that can enjoy their life and let their passive income pay for their dream lifestyle has been really a blessing.
Nice. Well, there's also like a pattern here that I see with you. The pattern is, get involved in something and you make it better, it grows, it evolves, and it's, sometime down the road, it's a lot better than it was when you found it. And that really goes down to a process. Like you're doing this over and over and over again in different, areas of your life, business, personal. Talk to us a little bit about your process. Like, what is your mindset and your methodology for kind of thinking about these things and organizing these things and doing them in a manner where it breeds excellence and you get the positive aspects of this thing out of it that you've been getting out of these deals, these businesses and these outcomes that you've gotten?
Sure. Well, first things first. Like to quote the late great Stephen Covey.
Mm-hmm.
And first things, family, and just we have to provide for our family. We have to have security. But putting those things first, I think really matter the most. Sean Achor wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage, which I love, and he talks about how scientifically they've shown that people don't become happy because they're wealthy and have good relationships and good health, but they have good health and finances and relationships because they're happy. And so I think, taking the time to realize the why makes a big difference. So as far as, the systems of high performers, are getting up early to do things. And the real trick to that is going to bed the night before to do things, even when you're kind of a night owl. And so just, I think that has really been a good migration shift, is just doing more things earlier. As far as journaling is very important. I was thinking the other day about the movie 50 First Dates and how they had to make an Adam Sandler and his character and the dad and the brother of Drew Barrymore's character. They had to make her that movie every single day so she remembered and could get along in her day, knowing getting caught back up. And I feel like with us, there's a little bit of that aspect that we forget all of the motivations and cool things that happen in the day if we don't write them down. And, I've started writing a letter to myself so that I can wake up and just kind of re-energize and start my day off with my 50 First Dates, template letter that has some specific things for the day. So those things have really helped my system.
Awesome. Well, I want to dig in a little bit in some of your methodology here. So, everybody wants to build wealth. Everybody wants to, to make enough money to, pay for all the things they want to buy, live a certain lifestyle, take X number of vacations. Not, everybody, it sounds good. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, but sometimes, being a millionaire doesn't make you happy, right? You got, like you were saying, you got to be happy with you first, and then you can be happy as a millionaire or a billionaire or a zillionaire, or as the commercials, I think it's the AT&T commercials, they say the giganaires or whatever now, right? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what you think the fundamental components are for accruing wealth, for kind of getting yourself to a point of starting to become financially free. I think everybody wants that, but what are some of the components that even make that up? What are the kind of the things that people need to be thinking about that kind of make up that puzzle of things that need to kind of come together at some point? So let's start off at a higher level, and then I've got some more questions to go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So, I have my book is going to be coming out probably in Q3 here, Q3, and it's just by the same name, Infinite Freedom, and how to unlock, your dream lifestyle with passive income. And the first key to unlock that is your mindset, and really having that mindset of doing what you enjoy, being well balanced, having first things first. Are very important. We are attracting wealth. We become a bigger person and then we attract the wealth to us rather than thinking we're going to be happy once we obtain it. So that is a big thing. Another key, like the second key would be, cash flow is king. I mean, just having cash flow as a stream come in is going to do a lot more in people's lives than just a stagnant pool of cash. There are a lot of people that are money hoarders that basically have a lot of cash sitting somewhere, whether it's in a stock market or their bank account or under their mattress, but they're not really connected to it. They're not spending that money because they don't know how long they're going to live, and they don't want to, outlive their pile. So by turning it into a continual source of golden eggs, if you will, that come daily, that really does help people. And I'd love to get more granular with it, but those are a few of the keys.
All right. So I got to ask a few more questions just to make sure we're on the same page, right?
Sure.
When you talk about things like mindset, a lot of people have different definitions of what that is. From your perspective as an expert, financial freedom, wealth advisor type of person, what is the kind of describe the mindset you're talking about of someone that is on the path to financial freedom and building some wealth and taking care of themselves differently and protecting their assets and things like that. Those are very specific things as I understand it. So what is that mindset? What is it, and how do you get there?
Yeah, well, it's a mindset of abundance, or I even take a step further to call it infinite mindset, as opposed to a scarcity mindset where people are just holding on to their things, trying to outlive their money. They're turning their assets into money generating vessels for them. So having the mindset of abundance and infinite is really important. People that feel like there's a bleak future tend to basically make their fears reality. And the studies have somewhat shown that the people that spend all their time watching cable news and thinking that the world's about to end and the sky is falling don't invest in America and invest in things that will cause their money to grow. And so they're getting robbed by inflation, which robs us all. So having the abundance mindset really helps people to know that they can recreate this money rather than feeling like they're operating from fear, because fear would be the antithesis of that growth.
All right. So I get that. You definitely don't want to live your life in fear. Like, man, I'm working away at my job and I'm making X amount of money and I'm putting a little bit in savings and I'm doing a little, but there's a recession, but the stock market's going down, but the price of milk is going up and my money's not going very far and the price of gas is all over the map and I can't go on as many vacations because I can't afford the gas and the increase in the inflation for hotels and food and excursions and things, right? So people can allow them to go into fear mode where they want to protect, they want to lock down, they want to take their money out of the banks, and especially with some of the news out of the past few weeks where we have some banks that have gotten themselves in big trouble and need to be bailed out by the government. And so that puts fear in their minds. All these things to kind of together, people see this, when they go to the pump and they're pumping gas in their car, they see the numbers on the gas pump, right? And it starts creating these fears of like, I need to take my money out of the bank. I need to bury it in a sock in the backyard. And they kind of like lock down. As I understand, and I'm not an expert like you, but these are the moments for which you should not be in fear, but these are moments of opportunity. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I believe there's a Chinese word that, for both opportunity and, challenge is essentially the same word, because the challenge or the opportunity, you can either have it be a stumbling block that you trip over or a stepping stone that takes you up to, the next level. And yes, as far as things are higher, prices are rising. So people that can adjust those prices during inflation do very well. People can make a lot of money during a recession. There's the global economy, there's the national economy, but then there's our own economy. And there are niches all the time of great prosperity. There were a lot of millionaires made during the Great Depression and, during the Great Recession as well. And so there is always opportunity for people that can pivot. Through COVID, there was a lot of examples of people that were able to, pivot the things that they were doing, and to the ones that adapted and were more able to change what they were doing, really prospered in unbelievable ways. And it goes back to the saying, like Charles Darwin said, among the species that survive, it's not the fastest or the strongest, but the ones that are most adaptable to change. And the same with, where we're at. And if we have fear in our mindset, then that's already eliminating our creativity. But when we think about what problems are out there, what patterns are we seeing from, the talking heads in the news, or the people that I'm interviewing over and over again, and or even people on Facebook, thinking, how can I solve this problem? And when we think about it as an opportunity of how can I solve this problem, as investors, we get paid to solve people's problems. We get paid to make the world a better place. We just have to identify the problem, identify a good solution to it, and then, go into that solution. So,
yeah. So I read a book a few years ago. I think I'm going to mess this guy's name up. I think it was Tillman Furtada, if I don't have that messed up, but he owns the Houston Rockets. He also owns the Landry's restaurant chain, among some other hotel chains, etc. He's quite the entrepreneur. Wrote a book. I can't remember the name of the book. I'll have to follow up and add that in the show notes when I can remember it. But I remember reading that book, and it was written from a very entrepreneurial standpoint. And he talked about, the ups and the downs of the economy, and, the woes of the world. And and there's always going to be wars, there's always going to be fighting, there's always going to be, good times, bad times, and it's the economic aspects of the world we live in kind of follow similar patterns that we go through from a weather perspective. Weather meaning, it's cold, it's rainy, it's sunny, it's there's lots of storms, there's no storms, right? I mean, we go through all kind of different weather patterns, and sometimes it's a colder winter, sometimes it's a milder winter, right? It is what it is. And the broader economy is very similar, but the most successful people, even if you read books like Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki, when you read these types of books and listen to these types of people, and it sounds like you are very similar in nature, it's not about the haves and the have-nots. It's not about any particular group versus another group. It's about being informed. There's the informed and then there's the uninformed, right? And so if you're informed on tax laws, if you are informed on ways to shelter money, ways to defer taxes, ways to invest and reinvest, if you are informed on the opportunities of the world, what even opportunities look like in the world, if you are like Mr. Furtada, then when the economy dips down, that's your opportunity, because you're going to be able to find other people that didn't plan accordingly, didn't do things maybe as they were supposed to, or weren't really disciplined in the things they were doing. And when something negative happens like COVID and a pandemic, it really showcases who's really prepared, who's really thinking the right way, and who's not. And the people that are not will go out of business, will default on properties, will go through things that create opportunities for somebody else to come in and do important things that can make a difference in the world. And so what are your thoughts on some of those kind of things? It seems like they're similar, but I wanted to get your take on those things that I have seen and read and seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is opportunity comes to those who have their houses in order. And you can have opportunities in any kind of season of the market cycle. There are things that are correlated to the larger economy. There's things that are not correlated, and there are things that are inversely correlated. I mean, there are some things that do better in a recession. So yes, I think that by having your house in order, then you can jump at the right opportunities. Also identifying the opportunities that you want. With my clients, we put them through, a real filter where they can identify what their biggest goal is, and so that they can easily say no to the things that they don't want. So the investments that we put, that I invest in, that people take a look at and they choose the ones they want to go into or not, they have more than they can realistically invest as much as they want to into each of these investments. And by having all of them, then they can say no. They can be very snobby to the investments and look for an excuse to say no, because they're taking the best of the best of the best. And there is something to be said about buy when everyone else is selling and sell when everyone else is buying. There's kind of what sophisticated money's doing, and there's kind of what lay money is doing, and they're not always the same things. And it's interesting that the masses, we tend to invest with an investment advisor in, a stock bond 60-40 split, whatever it is, that is much different than the wealthiest families in America. They invest in a lot different type of a way. They invest in private equity. They invest in real estate. They invest in things that pay them cash flow, that reduce their taxes, that allow them to have a better life now as well as in the future. So I think that's a lot of the key of it, is having your house in order, being prepared, educating yourselves. The biggest investment I've probably made is in having the right experts that I've spent, well over $1 million on, which has led me to shorten the path that it took me to get here. I've been able to get here in a fraction of the time and money than it would have been if I just had to figure out all of those things myself. And now I help other people to do the same thing. I try to help their journey to be much shorter and much less expensive, so that they can find things to invest in that pay, not just 4 or 5%, which is a good investment, but 20, 30% plus, paid in monthly payments and different kind of investments like that. So that is kind of the big difference for people that are prepared. They're going to succeed. If you're looking for an opportunity, you're going to find it. If you're looking for something pessimistic or doom and gloom, you'll probably find that too.
That is so true. Well, you're known for someone that can double your net worth in, within a couple of consecutive years back to back. You've helped a number of people do that. I want to kind of break that down into kind of your specific kind of plans and strategies of how you do that. What are some of the tools in your arsenal? What are some of the things that you leverage? Obviously we can't give away, all the secrets here on the podcast, but kind of give us an understanding of different things you're looking at. If I were a client looking to build wealth and look for opportunities and kind of take my game to the next level, what would you start advising people to do? What are the first steps? What is these options that you have surrounded yourself with to help people start doubling their net worth?
Yeah. So, I had heard many years ago that it takes a long time to get to your first million, but after that, they start rolling in. And I think there is some truth to that.
Huh.
A lot of that has to do with at $1 million, you become an accredited investor. So if you make either $200,000 a year for several years, or you have $1 million in net worth, then you can become an accredited investor and invest in a lot of things which otherwise you wouldn't be able to, because there's just less regulation and they're seen as being higher risk. But really, when they have just like you mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, talks about how things that have not a high ability to increase but still have risk, I would argue, are riskier than things that have the ability to, triple, quadruple, or even more, but still have maybe a similar chance of going down. Either way, once people get that ability to be an accredited investor, then they can invest in things where there's less competition. There tend to be higher potential investments, and this is why the Yale Endowment Fund or the Harvard, Endowment Fund, they tend to invest very little in public markets, and they have grown and doubled much faster than just an average S&P 500, which would be an average of 9% and double, every 10 years roughly, or a little bit less than 10 years. But with inflation, it's actually more than that. So if you can reduce your taxes, that's also an immediate benefit that you can get. If you reduce your taxes by $30,000 a year over 30 years, that would be $900,000. But with compounding, just even a simple conservative compounding interest, it would be more like about 15 million. So
Wow.
Starting early really makes a big difference.
Okay. So starting early, definitely critical. I think we've probably all heard that at some point in our lives. I think that's true. Start early, as far as going to bed early at night, start early, in investing and saving, start early on a lot of things, and then, investing in your knowledge and going to school. Start early. Start early is a great strategy for everybody. So, but what if you're not an accredited investor? What if you don't have $1 million or more dollars laying around to, kind of be slinging money out everywhere, right? What if you don't? What if you are an everyday Joe? Everyday Joe described as is somebody that's, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, kind of midlife, got a family, got kids, got a spouse, got a dog, got a career, got all kinds of different things going on, and they've hit a point where they know they can do better. They're kind of at this cusp of kind of going to the next level, and they want to take that next step. They can't go $1 million next step, but what is a good next step? Is that looking for some investment properties they can slap a coat of paint on and rent it out and get some passive income? What are some basic options that are typical, maybe first next steps to start, going down this path we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you always want to be, certainly saving as far as, uh, you want to increase your ability to multiply, your dry powder. So if you have more time than you have money, then you want to be using more of that time to generate active income. And a side hustle can be a really good way to do it. Starting a business can tend to make you a lot more money when it's successful than just trading your time for money. So whether that business is on the side, or it can be on the side that can grow and maybe overtake your day job if you're an employee. Having equity in that business can get you past that $1 million mark very quickly. Also, a more slow and steady type way would be like real estate. Maybe you have the house next door comes up for sale, and you want to buy that and rent that out to somebody and let them kind of make the payment, over a 10-year period of time. Most real estate investments are a pretty good thing, even if you're buying a little high. Interest rates are a little more challenging now to, but there's always, like I said, there are always opportunities. But yes, side hustles can be a quick way to get there. You want to, whatever you're saving, make it be automated. The studies have just shown that people that manually have to transfer money into a savings account each month don't save nearly as much as those that have it automated and going to another account that you're not really looking at every day. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's just they're growing, compounding interest. I mean, you can find things over 4% right now, just sitting in like a regular retail account, or if you go to one of the discounts, like a Schwab or a Fidelity or whatnot, you can get closer to 4.6, 4.7 just sitting there and allowing that to compound. So yeah, everybody has to start somewhere. Real estate growing in equity is going to help a lot, but we want to get away from just being a high earner. If we're relying on our earnings to create that $1 million, it takes a really long time. When we can leverage our assets to create that money for us, that's when it becomes perpetual.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. One of the things that I see that's happening out there that I would recommend to people is just in your day to day work, a lot of opportunities for you to think about your work in different ways. Now, everybody's different. Everybody has certain situations where, they may need certain things from an employer, others may not. But right now, this is a really good opportunity for you to explore more freelance work, whether you're a medical professional. I've got a neighbor across the street that's a traveling nurse. He's a young man, just got his nursing certifications and degrees about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he travels around. He's single, no kids, and he travels around and he makes top dollar because of the shortage in nursing, right? So if you're going to be wealthy, find the areas where there's a lack of something. There's a high demand and a low supply, right? That was huge. And he makes, a lot of money doing that versus working in the local clinic, doing acute care and, dealing with people's coughs, aches, and pains on a daily basis in his hometown. Another way to think about yourself, even like, somebody like me, that's a coach or a consultant or accounting, finance, there's a, HR, you can freelance yourself. You can create a small LLC and you can work for multiple companies and minimize your risk of one company having a bad day or one leader that makes bad decisions in the company. And then you end up getting laid off and then you have nothing, right? So a lot of people diversify their risk. Part of wealth is diversifying and minimizing risk, right? So a lot of people work for other 2, 3, 4 different employers as a 1099. Now, granted, you do have to make sure you have adequate, healthcare coverage and dental coverage, and can take care of yourself in those kind of ways, and you can set yourself up with some retirement types of accounts that can divert taxes and things as well. But you get significant tax advantages by running things through a business. You can deduct a lot of things through that. And so those are just some simple strategies that allow you more freedom, right? Freedom can be a lot of different things. Financial freedom is nice, so you don't have to worry about paying the bills, and you don't have to, going and working 80-hour weeks to make somebody happy to keep your day job. There's a lot of freedom that comes with in all these different ways. And so just as a small next step, those are some things to think about too.
Yeah.
Um,
As well as leverage. That's one thing that's, like if you're a traveling nurse, get a lot of clientele and then hire another traveling nurse to do it for you. And that's where your
right.
returns become a lot higher. Than you're not just trading your time for money, and you can get to the point where you have 2 or 3 of those, and you can scale. So, just to rent somebody else's, time and brain for $20 to $30 an hour, whatever it may be, $40 an hour. I mean, that's pretty cheap for the value that they can create for you, and everybody can win.
That's right.
So the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, I've been told, is leverage.
I think that's very, very true, right? So you get really, really good at doing something in these types of ways. You build the trust, you build the rapport, you build those relationships. And then, as Brian Tracy would say, those that have good hearts and good intentions and go out into the world to help people get what they want or what they need will never have to look for work.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely true. And
Absolutely.
so when you go out and do those things and you build those relationships, like a great example, the traveling nurse, now you can bring in some other people that want to do the same thing, train them, introduce them, connect them. Now they're working with you in a very similar manner, and you're making money off of them because you've done all the foundational work. Now you don't have to get in and do the daily work. Now you can be more of an entrepreneur and kind of broker deals versus, execute what it says in the deal. And I think that's where you get freedom. That's where you get opportunities to be more strategic, to see those more opportunities. The more in the weeds, grinding the daily axe that you may be, the opportunities are going by and you're not seeing them because of the trees and the forest analogy, right? You're just not seeing it. So those are some very simple tactics that I think would be a great start for folks.
Having some blank space on your calendar, I mean, that really makes a lot. If you're overscheduled, then you don't have time to innovate and create. So
Yeah, that is an excellent point. I think every entrepreneur will tell you that, and I think that's what we're talking about here. If you want to be free, how do you think differently? How do you think more entrepreneurially? You don't need to be, a genius in all things business or all things investments to be successful, right? It's the mindset. It's how you think. And so, Dr. Francom, talk to us about how people can get on this path. For you, you had to learn some of these things to get you out of dental work and working on people's, knobby teeth every day into doing what you're doing today. You had to learn. You had to take some classes. You had to go to websites. You went to webinars, seminars. Like, what are some things people can do today? What are some things people can connect to that can start learning about these things as you did?
I have a few free resources on my website at ericfrancom.com, as well as theinfinitefreedom.com. And there are free resources there. There are free resources in several places. A book is a pretty cheap way to, get some of those, the information from people like you mentioned, Brian Tracy or Robert Kiyosaki or others, or my book again that's coming out. But there's a lot of information there. But then really taking it to the next level of having a private coach, if somebody can get to that point, they can really go a lot further. It's kind of like having your own guide take you through a jungle rather than reading, a book that's just kind of telling you how to get through that jungle. You can do it, but it's just how fast you want to get there. And if you have, again, more money than time, then you want to be able to get that money to go to work for you. And leveraging that with the best coaches can help you to get there really a lot faster.
Yeah, great analogy. When we were visiting Rome, Italy, back many years ago, you know, we had two options. One, here's a map of Rome, Italy. Go explore Rome, Italy, and have fun with that. If you've ever been to Rome, Italy, it's chaos. There are no lines on the streets. The roads are whatever people feel like driving in. If there could be space for three lanes and there's 5 rows of people driving in it, right? It's crazy. It's chaotic. So that's one path, but we chose the other path, and that was to have somebody who was knowledgeable about that city, all the stories, all the little anecdotal things, and can guide you through it, take you through it, navigate you through it, so you can maximize your time in Rome, Italy, and see more, learn more, gain the maximum amount out of that experience possible, versus you on a moped with a map trying to zip in and out of town and not get killed, trying to just independently go see things and do things, right? It's a vast difference. And obviously I'm a coach. I've had coaches my whole life, advisors, mentors, as I've run companies, and they're just invaluable. You can just go farther. The most successful people, here's another tip for you as well. When you're thinking about how to think differently and go to that next level, the most successful people have coaches.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods is arguably the one of the greatest golfers in the world, and he's had up to 5 coaches at different times. Michael Phelps is an Olympic swimmer. He's got coaches. Michael Jordan, great basketball player. Kobe Bryant, you name anybody successful. Oprah Winfrey had many coaches. One of them was Tony Robbins, a guy you mentioned, right? The most successful people have coaches because they're there with you through the process, through the journey, minimizing the risk and the mistakes, and can guide you in an expert fashion to get you to where you want to be faster. Eric, you are a coach, you are a mentor, you are a financial wealth building expert. Thank you so much for being on this show today. You are just a great guy.
My pleasure. I mean, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I can feel the same from you, and it's just an honor to be on your show here, Jason. And to see somebody else that's helping and lifting others and helping them to soar higher.
Well, thank you. As we conclude today, Eric, what are 3 basic things that people can take away from this show that are most important for them to start going down this financial freedom path?
Yeah. Eliminate fear. That's the first thing. I mean, concern can be a good thing, but panic never is. So eliminating fear and just mapping your dream lifestyle. We have to create it mentally before we create it in reality. And then, we need to follow the plan. If there's something that we don't accomplish, it's probably because we didn't have the right plan or we didn't follow the plan. But usually it's the latter. So sometimes we fail to plan, but having a plan. And that plan will also help you to filter out all of the things that are not part of that plan, so you don't get distracted. And then just, I think do a part that you enjoy. If you're enjoying it, you're going to do more of it. If you hate it, you're going to want to do less of it. So, if you enjoy, like the nurse example, do that. If you enjoy being a dentist, do more of that. If you enjoy coaching, do more of that. But I would say stay in your unique abilities of what you love, and you'll be successful. And then the opportunities will be attracted to you. I mean, and don't limit yourself as part of that. Dream big as far as having, like big intentions for what you can do with your time and with your money. You don't need to limit yourself to what the masses are doing. You can have investments that pay, 10 times returns, 3 times returns, 5 times returns, rather than just, 5% here, 7% there. These exist. This is how the wealthy invest. So set big goals and then go capture those goals.
Awesome. Eric, how do people connect with you? How do they learn more about you, what you're doing, and all the great things you're doing for people to help them be as successful as they want to be? How do they contact you and get on board?
Yeah, at ericfrancom.com. That's ERICFRANCOM.com. There are some free materials. There's also the ability for people that want to, join the mastermind and get kind of on the fast track of getting with a group of finding some of these great investments, learning how to vet and get these top investments that reduce taxes, and that those people can apply to have a meeting where we can interview them and see if they're the right fit, if they're ready for the group at this time. And we are taking some people on, so if people are interested, they can certainly go there and check it out.
Awesome. That is so great. Thank you so much for what you do to help people. I know you're making a big difference out there in the world. Please take some time to visit his website. We're going to put that in the show notes as well, so you can find it in there. And obviously here in a couple of months, he's releasing his latest book, Infinite Freedom. Highly recommend you take a look at that. And along with some of the other resources we talked about today, there's just a lot of things out there in the world you may or may not be aware of. And the process starts with you. As Eric said, it's about clarity. It's about having intentionality. It's about sticking to a plan. And it's about not making excuses and just staying laser focused on what is important to you. No good decision is ever made in fear. Like fear, procrastination, hesitation, all of those things, never anything good comes out of those, right? As Roosevelt said, the only thing to fear is fear itself. And there's nothing to fear. There's plenty of things for you to learn and grow and fill your knowledge to be informed. And the more informed you can be, the better decisions you'll make in life, certainly financially. And so, thank you so much for being here, Eric. It's just a pleasure to have you on the show. We're going to put all this stuff in the show notes. People connect, learn with you. And that's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Join us next week as we talk about leadership. We talk about how we get into tough situations sometimes. Sometimes life happens, and how to get through those things, make good leadership choices so you can not disrupt the rest of your life in that process. And so we're talking about crisis. We're talking about those kind of things. We got a great guest speaker. He's an expert in that, former military person. I'm former military, so I'm going to really enjoy that and have fun with that. So look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.